This game review is brought to you by absolutely friggin' nobody. As a gamer, you might think to yourself, I've seen the weirdest things that gaming can offer. I mean, I've played Yakuza Like a Dragon. Lobster attacks and strange face rubbings aside, let's take a look at Monster Hunter Stories 2 Wings of Ruin. It's going to be out this week for the PC and the Switch for retail suggested price of $59.99. Thanks to the devs for the code, and thanks to you for hitting subscribe and the notification all button. Graphically, Monster Hunter Stories 2 is somewhere in that no man's land of generic looking, almost to the point of mistaking it for a Kroger generic Mr. Pibb ripoff of a Monster Hunter title. Or a very good looking title. It just all depends on exactly what you're looking for. I think it does skew a bit younger in its art demographic than, say, Rise or World did. At first, Stories can be actually confusing looking. It's almost like it's two games. Excellent special moves and animations for the creatures during the battles are all offset by bland looking locations until probably middle or later game when the title actually opens up. With Rise's release in the not-too-distant past, seeing Stories' hub-like world stretching out before you in majesty until you actually see the whole grass growing in at your feet kind of thing, or the empty locations, or the gamified moments, this is especially noticeable on the PC in particular. While battles, special cutscenes, the spells, the monsters, the character animations show the love that everyone expects from a Monster Hunter game. This title's actual gameplay type draws attention, though, to the lack of graphical finesse from low-detail textures in the world, to just overly simplistic looking locations. Again, until that middle or late game. So on the Switch, it looks like a Switch game, just not a great looking one. On the PC, it looks like a Switch game, just not a great looking one, except up-resed. And I do understand the original game wasn't that great looking either, and I applaud those who don't try because it's dangerous and worthless. Just look at the top of Mount Everest. A game like this, especially turn-based, draws you into those graphics moments. It also has competition from its very own titles. I think a little bit more lovin' would have gone a long ways here. While the attacks and the specials are inventive to say the least, you got Mount Peter North and poisonous juices into the air. You got one main character's attack that could just be simply summed up as fuck this entire location. And that's not including that riding the various monsters across the land each offers a totally different experience, from the she's a pretty thick in the back end waddle of the warthog to the inventive creepy crawlies of some of the later monsters that you get. Also, it's got some graphical issues, like shadows flickering in a lot of different places. That was tested on 3 different drivers on 2 different machines, and hugely noticeable popping up of the grass, as I said before. Options on the PC version are lackluster. You have resolution, borderless, windowed, full screen, and about 3 other settings that can be mini-maxed, and that's about it. I do understand this game is offering a different look and flavor than Rise, but even titles far smaller from other companies do a great deal more when it comes to options and graphical effects. So 1080 will easily get you 1080p or 1440p above 60 FPS. A 2080 Ti, I was able to get 4K above 60 FPS almost all the time. There were a couple little stutters here and there when loading in. Most of the time, it was well above that into the hundreds. When you look at Monster Hunter Stories 2 as a package, I would say it's a tiny bit disappointing when you're exploring, but then that shores up quite quickly when you're actually battling. Speaking of battling, why would you be doing it? Well, you're a Monster Hunter. This is Monster Hunter Stories 2. It has you playing as a new entry into the Monster Riders family. Well, not a new one. You're actually following your grandfather, Red, in his footsteps, trying to find out why creatures on the island and later other locations have become so violent. And what follows is you and your comrades doing nothing but kicking the shit out of an entire Sesame Street's worth of animals to make you feel more powerful. It's either horrifying or hilarious once you realize that you're basically buying a ticket to the zoo just so you can beat the hell out of all the animals. And that goes on for well over 40 hours. Plus, you have multiplayer, which I'll talk about in a second. Now, looking at the sound, within the battles, the sound is fine. It's got various elemental effects and class effects hammering out at you, all typical Monster Hunter style, higher than expected slashy affairs. However, when it comes to travel and environmentals, the sound is terrible. There's almost no environmental sounds in the game at all, regardless of which setting you pick. And when you do get it sort of dialed in, it has almost mysteriously bad sounds for creatures moving throughout the land. Listen to this.
Just as I thought. You really are like Red. My name's Emma.
This area has remained unchanged since ancient times. Many kinds of monsters live here, along with some rare species of insects. That said, a lot of them have been disappearing lately.
This is a game about double-team dinosaur Voltrons. Goddamn, they didn't give its due, and that is really disappointing, especially, like I said, around traveling and the environmentals. Of course, while you're doing that, you're going to be listening to some music playing in the background while Monster Hunter 2 stories, orchestral and almost outlandishly up-tempo tracks probably won't win any awards, but they fit perfectly with the theme and the idea of what's going on, which is the hero's journey from untested boy to untrusted, well, boy again, heavy on the horns and the thematic switch-ups. The soundtrack isn't my personal style, but it works well within its confines. And speaking of confining things, apparently all of the emotive voice actors were confined until about halfway through the game. When you start up, it is bog standard voice work. There's nothing wrong with that, I get it. It's just sort of there, and it's mostly you and your companion, your annoying other companions who are then companions who leave you to other companions. That's all fine. But then a character shows up and you realize accents, yeah, they're just italics for people's voices, but holy Christ, you can tell when somebody's better than other people. I did not realize what I was missing with everybody else's voices until a couple other people showed up. Whenever some of the characters come into the scene with that particular character, you're like, wait, what? It's like high school theater suddenly invited a thespian over and put him as a side character, not one of the main ones, which then becomes at least a bit noticeable. Speaking of noticeable, is the gameplay noticeably better than the original title? Now, while Stories doesn't come in and shake up a ton from the original game, it does add some finesse. First, the game has you making a character to take on the guise of Red's grandson, an aged monster hunter who's legend around the islands. You arrive and you set up quickly, following in his footsteps, finding out what has monsters going crazy on the island. It's your job to find out how to fix it. With your new best friends, you head out into the world, taking on main quests, collection activities, and battling and turn-based action against various creatures in the game world. As you explore, you find ways to new locations, either by progressing the storyline or collecting more of the 100 plus creatures that you can raise in the game and ride or battle with. Some have skills in the main exploration area they can use, like jumping and swimming and stealth and climbing vines and otherwise. While you can sneak up on characters from behind for a quick backstab first attack, regardless of that, you're going to be basically jumping into turn-based action. First, everything in the game is based on a rock, paper, scissors kind of system with speed, power, and technique replacing those. Each action represents that type of attack. Weapons have either blunt, piercing, or slashing damage, and there's 2 weapons per that type. You also have monsters who are susceptible to various types, including times when you bust off bits of their bodies to make it into armor and change it to a totally different weakness that monster may have. Obviously, not completely alien to anybody who's played a Monster Hunter game. Now, if 2 characters, though, choose to attack the monsters in the same style at the same time, they team up to do a dual-person attack. However, if the enemy and a character both target one another and choose the same type of attack, they go head-to-head, which results in a fairly simple button-press-style bash-a-thon that lasts for about 3 seconds. So what Monster Hunter game is worth its weight in Balroth juices if it doesn't have status effects, poison and stun, frozen and fire, and others round out the various ways in which characters and enemies can be impacted during battles. Now, attacks with weapons build up a meter for you to perform specials, while attacks of the same kind build up your monster's relationship with you during battle until at some point you can leap on their back, like I said, a dinosaur, Voltron or Doltron, and perform special attacks. These are the bread and butter of the game and some very enjoyable special attacks. And this heals up the player and the monster, which helps a lot, especially when you realize it still has that 3 life system. This is represented in 3 hearts for you, your creatures, or your allies that go away one at a time when your health bar goes down to 0. If all those hearts are gone, you have to start back over. This adds a suitable amount of strategy to the game, especially when you realize that switching out a monster that's at low health replaces it with basically another creature that is at full health. If they were at full health in your pack, it doesn't result in you losing that heart. And some bosses absolutely require that. Have you ever got an eyelash in your eye and suddenly you're completely fucking defenseless no matter what? You can end up burning to death and still trying to get that out of your eye. That's the way the bosses are in this game when you smash one of their weak spots off. And what seems serviceable strategic-wise stretches out into this savage back and forth with you trading out a monster 1 second, the enemy charging up and then changing tactics the next, aiming for a body part to break it off and then stopping its special attack and then being poisoned because you had to make the tactician's choice of sacrificing a powerful piece for another. And then just when you think you're about to die, one of your allies sucks the enemy into a frozen realm, then spears them with ice, then flies up into the sky and smashes down like a friggin' meteorite. Rock, paper, scissors? Sure. But combined with the monster types, the specials, as well as your own various different attacks and the enemy switching up strategies, also much more than that and highly enjoyable. Once you defeat the creatures, you are rated and given items from them that you either got from breaking off specific parts or just dropped from that monster in particular. And you can use those to upgrade your armor or weapons. To get back to town, you can either do the riding or swimming or sprinting or stealthing or climbing around the game world that each monster allows, or you can use the fast travel system for the majority of your trading, buying, and selling needs. I mean, they are villages in the middle of nowhere, so they don't have a ton of stuff. You'll be upgrading and you will be making items there, but you will also have the ability to craft on your own, and this is called combining. It is the typical crafting you see in all games, the ability to take this herb and this jar, smash them together, and suddenly drink it, and instead of being absolutely poisonous to your liver, you're healed. While building those suits of armor, upgrading the swords, switching out to gun blades versus bows to see how they animate and what special skills they carry, the best part of the towns is the gene system for monster raising. And whether you're getting eggs during quests or stealing them from rare monster nests, you return to the spot and you hatch eggs that you found, with the heaviest and stinkiest eggs, as pointed out by your companion, being of high rarity of some kind and getting extra bonuses. Raising the creatures and using them in your stable of available creatures in the game world. Each creature has 9 genes that some are unlocked right away, some are catered to when it comes to particular levels. These genes can be passed from one creature to the other at the expense of losing the creature you're stealing the gene from. More interestingly, the genes play out like tic-tac-toe, and you combine genes in a row 3x3 diagonally up and down or left and right, getting some bingo bonuses when it comes to the DNA, and these can add strategies to how you do this kind of stuff. It's an interesting idea for each creature and how you want to raise them. I found myself often with that inevitable moment where I had to sacrifice an earlier creature I'd named and grown to sort of like because they had an excellent skill that could give me a hugely powerful bonus for another creature later on. FYI, all creatures do gain experience even if you didn't use them in battle, though not as much as the main one. The game excels at making you care about the creatures in the system once you dive in deeper. What appears to be really sort of a bog standard rock, paper, scissors then turns into this combining weapons based on speed with creatures with a ton of speed, to the bingo bonuses all on their genes, to seeing yourself taking down those creatures with ease that were difficult at the start. Then going to a new location and find yourself facing a creature that requires a completely different move set. It certainly is familiar to anybody who has played any of the Monster Hunter titles, but the turn-based way in which it actually delivers its content is highly fascinating. Utterly sings when you're just traveling around, finding enemies to fight, and going into those different battles. While the locations themselves and the aforementioned monster abilities aren't anything really necessarily new or even relatively complex, when you get into battle, especially the later game ones, it can be fascinating to see these displays of how the deeper combat choices that look deceptively simple can come back and burn you a bit. Lastly, Monster Hunter Stories does have multiplayer. This is a pair hunt kind of thing, which unlocks about mid-game. They allow for you to join up with others, do some quests, as well as battle it out against other teams. It's not incredibly robust in its game type or its really setup, but it's a nice addition for a turn-based game, something that we don't always see. But messing with genetics normally doesn't work out so well, and the same thing happens here on Monster Hunter Stories. We do have a couple issues. First, no bugs. However, the game is getting a difficulty setting later on in DLC, and I think it does need it because it needs some balancing right now. It is deceptively easy. I didn't die in the first 10 hours other than maybe once or twice from pure inattention. Those first hours feel actually a bit like an extended demo. This does end up showing you everything you need to do and how you need to go about it, and the game is long, so it sort of paces itself out. Just be aware of that, though. And of course, all that'll smash down into fun factor. Life will find a way. It may appear to skew to a good deal younger audience. I get that. It doesn't take long before you sit back, though, and realize there is an insane amount of shit going on. You can smash some toad DNA into some creature, change it into something completely different, and just aisle a Dr. Moreau yourself into hours of the night, which I absolutely did. I love that. I like the turn-based combat. It was enjoyable as hell. You can also speed up the combat 1, 2, or 3 times if you want to get through some of them a little bit quicker and you don't want to sit through some of those battles. Also, the game does let you pretty much within the first couple hours get a couple creatures that let you skirt any low-level battles you don't want to fight. I would love to see more games do this. It would really help, especially when it comes to people who don't want to necessarily grind some of those low-level locations. I'm not going to lie, though, that difficulty, especially at the starting, did provide moments of inattention. Moments where I was like, not 100% sure I even need to really care what attacks I actually do. That ended up wearing down later better as I went through the games when I wasn't really paying attention and got absolutely smoked. It may not look the best, may not have the best sound, may just be all over the place, in fact, but I can't say I didn't have a lot of fun. And that brings us to rating. As you guys know, I rate games on a buy, wait for sale, rent, or never touch again rating system, rent being replaced by deep, deep sale. For younger gamers, this is a buy right away, and we'll just call it a buy. But I will warn people that that lack of difficulty at the starting and the way the game looks and the way the game sounds, the fun factor ends up nailing this. That's the juice anyway, right? But those other elements to this title, especially at full price, I would have liked them to have been way higher. Graphically, this should have looked better, especially the locations in which you travel in the first half of the game. Later half of the game is fine. It's that first half of the game, you're just like, damn, son, really? Seriously? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, this isn't so bad. The creatures themselves, the animations, the dual attack, that's phenomenal looking. It's so fun at those points. I just wish, man, somebody would have looked and said, can we have the grass grow like at least 50 feet in front of us? Thumbs it up if you like the video, subscribe, hit the notify all. You'll be seeing more reviews from me, some new special stuff coming out. If you're a patron, you got not only the absolutely amazing Discord, but you've got the special patron only videos and audio we're doing. But of course, if you're not a patron, there'll be special stuff for you as well. Peace out. I hope you guys enjoy this game if you end up getting it.